try to take a lot of the concepts we've gone over throughout the class and kind of put them into one sort of work where everything kind of fits together. So what I'm going to do is look at the discussion board prompt this week, and then that way we can kind of use this as a jumping off point. If you look at the prompt, they are very similar to one another, and the difference that I just want you to note, or the thing that I just want you to know, it's not really a difference, is that the story that you pick in the discussion board cannot be the same for the essay this week. So that's just really important to know, because I don't want you to put a ton of work into the essay and then realize, oh, I can't use any of this. All right, so let's go to the questions this week in the discussion board. Now, it's not that I don't think questions 1 and 3 are helpful or good or bad or whatever. I'm not making a judgment on them at all. But I think that if you're focusing on those, that if you answer them, you might still have a very kind of general response to your story. So it might not be very helpful in terms of organizing your ideas. So that's why I want to focus on the middle question. And if you're looking at it right now, it says, what aspects of the story work well? So the thing you can kind of see that's a hallmark of all these questions is, why is this story effective? Or what's it doing in terms of storytelling that's working? And so to me, that's your position in terms of your thesis. Like, yes, this story is an effective story. It's told well, whatever you want to say, but there's something about this story that's effective, or possibly not effective if you want to kind of go down that road. So if that's your position, the support is what you're going to be bringing up and developing in your essay and discussion board. So for instance, that's where the aspects comes into play. So what does aspects mean? Well, when I think of aspect, I think of the different parts. And if you remember, throughout our class, we went over various things like conflict, setting, characterization. Those are all the aspects of the story you could focus on. And so if I was thinking about writing a thesis, well, it says what story aspects of the story work well. You can maybe say the way in which characterization and setting, those work well because of these reasons. And so I think that middle question, that's sort of the thing that's going to unlock something for you in terms of both the essay and the discussion board. So what I would recommend doing is thinking about the aspects, not just which ones work well, but which ones don't work so well. And maybe make a list, like one of those little T-shirts, and start to think about, okay, well, let's focus on characterization. Okay, well, what parts of it work well or not so well? Setting, conflict, just keep going down the line. Anything that we've talked about in terms of like a concept in the class, that's fair game. Even stuff maybe in 130, that's you could bring in terms of what aspects. If you don't want to focus on something like, setting or characterization, maybe you go back to week 1 when we talked about Vonnegut's rules, or the idea of an epic story, right? Those could be aspects too that you might want to focus on, or give you a framework. So for instance, one of Vonnegut's rules, give us someone to root for. That's an aspect of a story. Sure, it deals with characterization, which is something I mentioned earlier, but that's on the table again. So again, to me personally, when I'm looking at this list, not that 1 and 2 are unimportant, but if I'm thinking about what's going to help me write a thesis statement, to me number 2 is where I would go, okay? And like I said, what I would do is focus on the aspects of the story that I want to talk about in my post and think about why they worked well or not so well. And I think too, like, if you're looking at this question, it's kind of designed in a way for you to find the parts that did work well, but that doesn't mean that you might not be able to focus on things that didn't work so well and have, a thesis that says, although these aspects of the story did not work well, these ones did, and here's why. And so I don't want you to kind of thinking like, oh, I have to be just kind of praising the story. I think that there can be room for nuance in both the discussion board and essay. All right, so like I said, very important week, not only because are we kind of wrapping up everything in the class, but this is actually something we're going to be building on for next week as well, so that the skills and things that we do in this week aren't just isolated, just like weeks 1 through 6 weren't isolated to those specific weeks. All right, well, I will talk to you later, and have a great week. Bye.